Welcome to the Strokecast. A Generation X stroke survivor explores rehab, recovery, the frontiers of neuroscience, and how to peel a banana with one hand.
Hello, I'm Bill Monroe, and welcome to episode 174 of the Strokecast. 5 ways to get the most out of the new year. Today's solo episode is brought to you by the fine folks at Modus Nova. To find out if Modus Nova can help you recover the use of a stroke-affected limb, visit strokecast.com/Modus Nova. Whether you're celebrating your new year on January 1st or January 22nd or September 15th or your Strokeaversary or whatever other date during the new year you choose to mark that time of transition, it's just that. It's a time of transition. It's a time to pause and think about where you want to go, what you want to do, and where you're coming from. Now, we could, of course, talk about New Year's resolutions. I mean, everybody talks about New Year's resolutions, but that really just sets us up for failure. Few people set and achieve resolutions, and it's no surprise that I say something like that. I mean, failing your New Year's resolutions within 2 weeks of the new year is pretty much just a cliched comedy trope at this point. So with all of the cultural baggage around resolutions, let's not talk about resolutions. Instead, let's talk about things that we can do in the new year. And here are 5 things you can build into your plan for the new year whenever your new year begins. Those 5 things are to decide what you want, to make a plan, to find a community, to share your story, and to reach out to your therapists. So let's get started. First of all, decide what you want. Many people actually go through life on autopilot. I think many of us have done that in the past and maybe continue to do so. We let the things that we want be decided by societal standards or by other people or by perceptions about what we're supposed to want. Other people may not be entirely on autopilot. Maybe they choose their goals and priorities and direction once, but then they never stop to think about it again. Stroke, of course, adds yet another layer to that. You see, most stroke survivors that I speak with say that stroke has changed not only their abilities, of course, but also the way they think about life. It adjusts their priorities or brings a level of clarity they might not have had before. You know, while stroke is, of course, a terrible thing, and it does a lot of terrible things to us, this clarity, this reset, can in many cases be one of the gifts of stroke. Whether you thought you knew what you wanted or before stroke or not, surviving the stroke gives you a reason, though, to go ahead and just stop. To stop and think about your goals. It gives you a chance to think about what it is you really want and whether that needs to change. That doesn't mean you have to scale back your ultimate goals because of language or physical or cognitive disabilities or other challenges. It's possible that your dreams can now be even bigger. But what it does mean is that you've got some work to do. You have to figure out what you want to do and, almost more importantly, why you want to do it. Before you pursue any goal or plan of action for the new year, decide if you want that result. I mean, look at where that goal is going to take you and decide, is that really where you want to go? I mean, maybe running seems like something you should do as the next part of your physical recovery. But do you really want to? I mean, is there a reason you want to be able to do that? Because ultimately, you're unlikely to be successful at achieving a goal that you don't really care about. And then, of course, many people have the added baggage of beating up on themselves because they failed to meet a goal they never really cared about in the first place. And there's just not good stuff that comes out of that. So figure out if you want to achieve that goal and why. Take some time and a pen and paper or a blank digital document or a dry erase board or a partner who can serve as a scribe and make a list of things that you do care about and that you want to do. And if something is on that list just because you think it should be on that list, ask yourself, why do I care about that? Think about that. What are you ultimately passionate about? What do you care about? And what lights a fire under you? And remember that after stroke, your answer might be different than it was before. And that's okay. In fact, 2 years after stroke or 3 years after stroke, your answer might be different than it was 1 year after stroke or 6 months after stroke or 6 months before. And that's okay. We're growing and changing, and our priorities are adapting with us and what we want to see in the world and how we want to impact that. And of course, as you go through this exercise, if the answer is nothing, there's nothing you find yourself passionate about or caring about, I mean, that's okay too. Perhaps dedicate your new year to finding out what you care about. There's nothing wrong in doing this exercise. There's nothing wrong in your answers, because regardless of what answer you get, it's going to tell you something, and it's going to tell you something that you can act on. Maybe there's new things you're passionate about that you can build out from there. And of course, if that answer is nothing, like I said, build the year around figuring that out. And if you can't, it's okay to go ahead and talk to a counselor or a therapist as well that you can communicate with. Because sometimes lack of interest in things could be a sign of depression, and that can be treatable. In my experience, many people don't know what they really care about or what they want to do because they haven't taken the time to figure it out. They run on that autopilot, doing what they think they are supposed to do, rather than what truly inspires their soul. And that's kind of a waste of time. Feed your soul, feed your passion by pursuing things that you are passionate about. So think about what you want, and then you can go ahead and make a plan to pursue it, which is the next thing you need to do for your new year, and that's make a plan. Because once you know what you want to do, then it's time to figure out how to do it. And you can talk to people who can help. Maybe that means getting more physical therapy, occupational therapy, or speech therapy. Maybe it means going back to a rehab doctor. Maybe it means finding a business coach or a writing coach or a life coach. And I mean, we've had a number of those folks as guests on the show in the past. Maybe it just means more work by yourself at home. The thing is, you don't have to get to that ultimate goal all at once. Break it up into smaller pieces and work on a plan to complete these individual pieces. One method that I find really helpful for understanding this and how to do this is to go ahead and build SMART goals. These are often things that we may be familiar with from physical therapy or occupational therapy. SMART goals are goals that are simple, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. I talked more about them in a previous episode over at strokecast.com/smart. Of course, doing all of this by yourself is hard. You don't have to do it alone. You can go ahead and find a community, which is the next thing to do in your new year. Find a community. Because loneliness and isolation are two of some of the biggest non-medical challenges that stroke survivors face. Our disabilities may make it harder for us to go out and interact with the world, whether that's because of movement, safety, language, whatever. Many friends or relatives who may have been close to us in the past may back away from us after stroke because they don't know how to deal with us now. And we make them uncomfortable because we are a constant reminder that if this happened to me, this can happen to you. So it's very easy to find yourself in an isolated social context or to experience that loneliness. And that can, of course, even be harder for younger stroke survivors who suddenly find themselves flung off the traditional life paths of advancement that many of their peers are on from school or through their young corporate days or the middle part of their corporate life. So it's so important to go ahead and find a community then of stroke and brain injury survivors, because we're out there and we understand. We get it. And you can do that by looking for local support groups. In fact, many of the support groups since the pandemic began a few years ago are now meeting online. And they're still meeting online even as things open up again. As you're looking at support groups and attending different support groups, try a bunch of different ones until you find the one or the ones that you actually feel most comfortable with. Because one of the things you'll find is that each group develops its own personality. And that's based on the members, it's based on the leadership, it's based on the demographics of the people that are in there, it's based on all sorts of other things, but every one will be individual. Some are going to be more socially focused, while others may focus more on education or adaptation. Some will be more diverse, while others may be primarily made up of older folks. I mean, if you're not comfortable in one group, go ahead and try another. The other great thing about all these groups meeting online is that you're not as limited as you might have been in the past by geography. So look for these online groups, and you can connect with folks outside of your immediate community and all over the place. As you're looking for these, formal groups are great, but there's also a lot of informal gatherings for our community. And you can find that through social media. So be sure to check out a bunch of the various stroke hashtags that you may find on Twitter or Instagram or TikTok. Try following folks who are using these hashtags and interact with folks who are using these tags, and use them yourselves as you share things from your life. Some of the popular ones that I've seen include hashtag stroke, hashtag stroke survivor, hashtag stroke life, hashtag stroke awareness, hashtag stroke recovery, and really, there's going to be a whole bunch of others. Experiment with your search engines. When you see a post from somebody who says something interesting, look at the hashtags that they used and go ahead and explore some of those other hashtags. Usually you can just click on them and you'll see even more posts that are using that same hashtag. So try those, try some others that you come up with, watch the content, like, share, and comment on the content that connects with you and that inspires you. And be sure to share that more widely. And of course, as you're sharing this stuff, that brings us to number 4 of the 5 things to do for your new year, and that is share your story. See, all those stroke stories that you have found helpful, that you've heard from other survivors, whether in meetings, on social media, maybe in a rehab facility, all those stories that you found helpful, they were told by someone who probably thought their own story was not worth telling. So many people can't imagine how their experience can help others. But your story does matter, and your story can help others, and your story can help people connect with this broader community and with their own experience. So consider telling your story. That doesn't mean you need to start your own podcast or YouTube channel or blog, but of course, if you feel inspired to, go ahead and do it, and please let me know. I'd love to share that more broadly. Just work on becoming comfortable telling your story to others and to your family members and to your friends. And the more you tell it, the easier it becomes. And if you have the opportunity to tell your story, go ahead and tell it. Maybe it will help another survivor just not feel so alone. Or it will help your colleagues to understand other folks in their own family or their own social circle. Maybe a stranger will learn the be fast warning signs of stroke, and that will make all the difference in someone else's stroke experience. And at the very least, it may simply help you better understand and make peace with your own experience. Ultimately, as a species, we thrive on storytelling, and you have a doozy to share. So go ahead and share your story with others, and share it with your therapists, because even when they were treating you, they only saw a very small part of your story, which brings us to number 5 for the year. And that's to reach out to the therapists you've worked with in the past. If it's been a while since you were in contact with your medical team, or you ended therapy for whatever reason, insurance ran out, you got all better, whatever it is, reach out to your former PTs, OTs, speech therapists, doctors, etc. Let them know how you're doing and share your progress. If you can visit that medical facility, go ahead and do that. Or just send them an email. Or send a note or a card to the facility. If you don't have individual names or contacts, you can just address something to the neuro rehab unit or the stroke physical therapy department or whatever at that facility, and just send a note saying a little bit about your progress and thanking them for their impact if you feel that gratitude. You see, they work hard to get us to that next level, but they don't see most of us after that. Most of the therapists I've talked to love it when former patients send them an update or reach out to them or show up, because they can see how much progress we have made. They helped us so much, and this is an easy, cheap, and powerful way to help them. So try those 5 things over the course of this new year. Decide what you want, make a plan, find a community, share your story, and reach out to your therapists. And that brings us to our Hack of the Week. But first, let's talk about sponsor Modus Nova. Maybe one of your priorities for your new year is to refocus on hand or foot recovery after stroke. Modus Nova may be able to help. The Modus Hand and Modus Foot are AI-controlled, air-powered exoskeletons you wear while you play video games on the included touchscreen monitor. They help you get in the thousands of reps you need to recover the use of a stroke-affected limb. And the record keeping means not only can you see your progress, you can also hold yourself accountable for doing the work. You can see how many days in a row you worked or how many you skipped, and you can hold yourself accountable based on that. To find out if Modus Nova can help you recover the use of a stroke-affected limb, visit strokecast.com/Modus Nova. Use promo code STROKECAST to save 10% off your first month. And now back to our Hack of the Week. If you pour liquor from bottles, take a look at some of the 1-ounce bottle stoppers that are available. I'll have a link over at strokecast.com/New Year. I also found some of these over at Total Wine, and they're readily available. What these are is these replace the lid of the bottle. You put it in there, and then you can just tilt your bottle, and it will pour a fixed amount of liquor. You've seen these in bars, and you can have them at home too. See, I enjoy a nice whiskey or scotch or bourbon in moderation. My doctor did say it was okay, so check with your doctor. Mine simply said, just don't drown your brain in it, which perfectly reasonable. But the problem with pouring from these bottles is my hemiparesis. Because you see, pulling the lid or cork from the bottle means I have to hold the bottle in place. I also have to count on my weaker and my spastic arm to hold that bottle still while I remove the lid with my other hand. And then I have to rely on my affected arm not to jerk and spill the bottle the instant the lid pops free. Putting the cork or top back in is a little bit easier, but it still presents some similar challenges of keeping that bottle in place and not knocking it over with too much pressure. So let's reduce the risk of spill. And these pourers mean that I only have to pop the lid off once, because then I can put the pourer in. And over the course of the next several months, when I want to sip a dram, I just pick up the bottle and pour. The bonus perk here is that I know exactly how much I'm pouring. I don't accidentally overpour because these stoppers that I have shut off after 1 ounce. And then I can stand the bottle up straight, and then I can pour again if I want another ounce. If you have non-alcohol bottles, like maybe flavorings for coffee, or maybe it would work with olive oil, I'm not sure, you may want to take a look at some of these stoppers too. The texture of the liquor may be an issue for some of those, but definitely look into it and figure out what works for you. I've found them to be super helpful. So I have just a few more housekeeping things I want to share before I wrap up here today. First of all, can you do me a favor? You see, as we head into this new year, I want to continue to make this show better. And I want to hear from you about how I can make this show better, or the types of guests I should be talking to. Or maybe I should just keep it exactly the way it is if you like it that way. You can let me know. Please go ahead and visit strokecast.com/survey. That's strokecast.com/survey to fill out the short form and share your thoughts. You can do it anonymously if you'd like, but if you'd like to shed a little bit of that anonymity, you can also supply a name and email address and enter a drawing for a $25 Amazon gift card. You can find more details and the survey over at strokecast.com/survey. So please go ahead and fill that out. I'd love to hear your thoughts. So please go ahead and fill that out. I would love to hear your thoughts, and you would be doing me a big favor by completing that survey. This drawing will run through March 31st, 2023. Another note, if you had an accomplishment or win, big or small, since your stroke, the community wants to hear about it. It's sort of one aspect of sharing your story. It's not just about the terrible things that have happened to you, but about the wins, about the good things, about the accomplishments you've had. If you've had a win, big or small, whether you walked a mile or twitched a finger, we want to hear about it. Go to strokecast.com/win to learn how you can share your win of the week so we can all celebrate with you. And that's it for this week. As you start your new year, whenever your new year starts for you, do the 5 things that we talked about here. Decide what you want, make a plan, find a community, share your story, and contact your therapists. Share this guide with someone you know, or review this list yourself with the link strokecast.com/new year. Visit strokecast.com/win to share your win of the week. And of course, as always, don't get best, get better. Thanks a lot. I'm Bill Monroe, and I'll talk to you soon.
The Strokecast, Bill Monroe, and Bill's guests provide general information and entertainment, not medical advice. Please do not make any changes to your treatment plan or the execution of your treatment plan without first consulting your personal doctor or medical team. The Strokecast is a proud production of the Currently Speaking Podcast Network.